Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're kind of continuing this thing where I've typed out my thoughts for myself, and I'm going to follow my outline here, and we'll see how that happens. And today's topic is going to be easy modes, because as happens every so often, the topic of easy modes, of course, circulated on X. I guess you can't really say it's circulated. Someone decided to kick the hornet's nest, post a image saying that every game should have an easy mode, and of course everybody went after him. That's pretty much par for the course. You know, you're going to have an argument on that every time. And for those who have been here on the channel for a little bit, I'm sure you can predict what my response to that kind of thing is, which, for those who don't know, is basically it depends on what the developers want to do. If they want to develop an easy mode, fine. If that's what they wanted to put their time into, I'm not going to argue with them. It's their game. They developed the way they want it to feel, the way they want it to play. And if I don't like the way they decide to do that, then I won't play it. It's that simple. If they don't want to include an easy mode, that is also fine. If they want to force players to develop specific skills in order to play their game, then cool. I love Bloodborne. I love the concept behind Bloodborne. I would love to beat Bloodborne. I can't even get to the first goddamn boss, and I wish I was kidding. I can't get to the Cleric Beast. I've tried repeatedly. I've not given up yet. I will probably try again in a little while. You know, another few months. I wish it would come out on the PC. That would actually make it a lot easier for me. But until that day, I am not capable of playing Bloodborne, and I admit that, despite how sad it makes me. And I don't think Bloodborne should have an easy mode. They made the game the way they made it for a reason, and I don't see any reason why that should be changed. I should just get better at the game. And part of the reason I feel that way is because, again, another thing I like to repeat is that you can't make a game that's for everybody. You have to make a game that's for somebody. And some people don't want easy modes. Some people do want easy modes. By creating both types of games, you cover everybody. Now, you can't cover them in one audience, but you never will. It's just the way it is. But there are always going to be people who prefer games that are harder and people who literally just want a walking simulator. Now, back in the long ago days when I was just a young squid, there were games that would openly mock people for choosing to play on easy mode. Games like Doom, where the easy mode was called I'm Too Young to Die, basically saying, you know, you're a baby if you're playing this. Monkey Island 2 would skip puzzles and remove content and make comments throughout the game that, you know, you just weren't good enough to play the game. Streets of Rage 3, where you couldn't get past stage 5 and it would directly tell you to come back when you got better at the game. And of course, Wolfenstein 3D, where they just label you a toddler. I think they even put a little bonnet on your character. And then, you know, Sheep City and I were actually discussing it. In my opinion, the perfect easy mode would be you click easy mode, you start the game, and then the game just plays itself. You can't push any buttons, you can't make any decisions. The game just does the entire thing itself. Assassin's Creed Shadows is getting real close to that kind of thing with their canon mode, where it makes all the choices for you so that you have the canon ending, which is so much bullshit. But that's another topic for another day. But yeah, it just walks you through the whole game. You can sit there and watch, you can pause it, or you can turn the game off, and that's it. There is no actual playing the game because you wanted easy mode. They won't do that now. And I'm probably in favor of this because I'm old. Too many people now feel the need for an easy mode. But, you know, there wasn't ever really a specific first ever game with an easy mode, at least not as far as game history seems to say. I'm going to be honest, I used Grok quite a bit doing some of this research. Some of it I already knew just because I pay attention, but at the same time it was kind of nice to have another way to research this. But, you know, even from the very beginning, there were cheat codes. You know, you had the Konami code. If you were old enough to remember, you had a Game Genie, which was something that you could attach to your Nintendo game cartridges and then slide into your Nintendo, and it would allow you to enter codes for various games. You had an entire little booklet of codes for various games that you could enter for all kinds of things, you know, extra lives, immunity, all that kind of stuff. It was actually kind of cool. But as time has progressed, difficulty settings have become more and more prevalent, to the point that most games actually have it in some way. Again, I asked Grok for a list of games that didn't include an easy mode over the last 5 years. And realistically, I mean, there were a few, and of course the list isn't comprehensive. But for the big ones that really came out, you know, you had Elden Ring, You had Returnal, which was actually a fun game if you've ever played it. Animal Well, which was that indie game that was on so many Game Awards lists. Silent Hill 2 Remake. I don't know that one should really count because, I mean, let's face it, it's a remake. Another Crab's Treasure had no easy mode. Pokemon Legends Arceus had no easy mode. Tunic, which is a cute little Zelda-like game that really was fun. There are some accessibility modes on it, but not necessarily a easy mode. Cocoon, which is more of a puzzle game. And then it included Sifu, which I'm not sure that should really be on it because they did actually add an easy mode later with an update. But initially, it did come out without an easy mode. So, but with all the games that have come out over the last 5 years, there really doesn't seem to be many that had no easy mode. It's almost the default now where if you make a game, you have some kind of mode that makes it easier for people to play your game. Now, I mean, what I find funny is that even The Sims has some kind of easy mode, mostly surrounding exactly how much time you spend taking care of your Sims' needs, the hunger, bathroom breaks, cleanliness, resting, and one mode you don't have to pay attention to them at all. Another mode you have to almost literally micromanage them because they won't do anything themselves. Personally, I was always more likely to play the one where I had to tell them to do things because otherwise what's the point of playing the game? But I know some people don't like to have to deal with that. When it comes to easy modes, you do have a specific group, it always seems to be a specific type of people who are arguing with it. You have the first group who is always saying it's about accessibility, that somebody with a physical or mental disability should be able to play these games. Of course, then you point out, this kid over here played this entire game with cerebral palsy and beat it using their mouth. And they come up with another excuse. But then you have people who think that parenthood is a type of impairment, though in fairness, that is mostly applied to pause screens as opposed to actual difficulty, since if you don't have a pause screen and your kid starts screaming, you're going to have to risk dying. Though realistically, if it's between a video game and your child, you should be choosing your child 100% of the time. If you die in the video game, it's not that big a deal. It sucks a little bit, but you'll get it back. But then you have those who are willing to admit, maybe I'm not very good at the game and I just want to be able to play a game. The big problem with them is that they don't seem to be willing to admit and acknowledge the fact that they just don't like to be left out, that they see this game that everybody else is playing and they want to play it too, but they don't want to devote the time and energy into getting good at the game. So then they just can't play the game, and they don't think that's fair. They don't think that it's right that they should have to buy a game that they can't play. And I agree, you 100% should not buy a game that you are not going to be able to play. But you should be smart enough to realize that you are probably not going to be good enough to play that game, and that's okay. Just because you can't play that game doesn't mean that other people won't enjoy it and that you have to take it away from them. It is okay to not play a game. It is okay to miss a game that is totally popular, that everybody else loves. I have never played a Grand Theft Auto game. I will never play a Grand Theft Auto game. It is not my kind of game. I have no interest in playing Red Dead Redemption 1 or 2. There are plenty of games that are hugely popular that like 90% of the gaming population has played that I have no interest in. And it's because either something about the gameplay or the setting or something just doesn't jive with me, so I don't play it. That doesn't mean I feel like I missed out on something. It just means that there were other games I had plenty of time to devote my time to while everybody else talked about the big thing. And I like listening to people talk about the big thing because that means they're happy, they're passionate. I love it. I love listening to people be passionate about something because it is always so much fun to watch them, even when they're arguing about what they're passionate about. That spark that shows up in somebody when they are talking about this thing that they love and they're going back and forth about it and they're arguing with somebody else who's passionate but doesn't have the same opinion. It's a fascinating exchange to watch. I know most of the stuff I know about comic books, not because I read comics, but because I watch people who are passionate about comics. There are a lot of things that for some reason I now have a passing knowledge of, not because I had any actual knowledge in that thing itself, but because there was somebody standing there talking about how much they loved this thing, and I had to stop and listen. That is part of what really shows somebody is excited about a hobby, is that they're willing to talk about what makes them excited and to compare and to argue, and not argue in the bad way that we have a tendency to do today, you know, where one person's just saying things and the other person doesn't actually listen, doesn't actually take in what the other person is saying, but just responds to what the other person's saying because they think their point's more right than the other point and they don't want to come to any kind of agreement. Sometimes in gaming, sometimes in you know, hobbies and in things that you're passionate about, that comes up. But at the same time, there's usually a point where people understand, while I disagree with you, that doesn't mean I hate you. We're losing some of that. We need to get that back. But back on topic, you also have the group who will argue that not putting in an easy mode means that you're limiting your audience. And it does. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Limiting your audience is only bad when you limit your audience to no one. When you make up an audience that doesn't actually exist, or you try to target an audience that isn't actually an audience that would actually buy anything. When you target people who don't have any money, or don't actually do any shopping, or more importantly, don't play games, but try to tell you that they want you to play games, that is a problem. Those people should not be taken seriously. They should not be taken seriously. They should not be listened to. But having a niche that you build a game for, if you know that niche really exists, and they have proven to you that time after time, if you develop a game that they like, they will come back, you should focus on that niche. Games like Veilguard totally lost that plot. They did not understand what made people love Dragon Age, and they disappeared. They disappeared because they were looking for an audience that was outside of their niche, and that audience didn't exist. They thought it did. They were so convinced it did, but it did not. And so here we are. Games without an easy mode have a place in the gaming environment. Games with an easy mode have a place in the gaming environment. Both should exist because diversity is our strength. There are times that is actually true. And in this case, it's true. It's true because, you know, people like different things, and that's okay. That is real diversity. Not the shit they've been trying to push on us forever. But, you know, in my whole wondering about this and sitting down to prep for this video, I asked Grok. I went to Grok and I said, hey, so of the articles that have been written, you know, about video games kind of generally, how many were pro easy mode, saying that, you know, the game should have easy modes? And unsurprisingly, the bias came up with about 60 to 65% of articles coming up as saying that easy modes should be included, with only 40 to 35% either having a more neutral stance or not arguing or arguing against it. In this, The Gamer was actually the biggest proponent of easy modes. They've had approximately 5 to 7 articles in recent years about it, and most of their articles mention it in a positive light. But in general, you know, this is the games media. They are very much about accessibility and inclusion, so of course they're going to be pro easy mode. Now, I did ask Grok what it felt the general consensus on X was, and it came up the other direction. You know, about 40 to 45% of the conversation on X seemed to lean into anti-easy mode sentiment, while 30 to 35 were pro-easy mode. And then there was a good 20 to 25% who were more neutral or think that it depends on the game that's being developed. So overall, it seems like, at least in the conversations on X, which this is not a scientific study of any kind, so definitely take it with a grain of salt. I asked an AI. The AI is probably wrong, but I am too lazy to go out and do the math myself. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and go with it because, let's face it, it sounds kind of right to me. And if I'm wrong, I am not a reporter. I am a squid on YouTube, and if you're looking for me to be 100% right, you've come to the wrong place. Just being upfront about that. Not looking to be an in-depth consumer reporter with the use of an AI. Basically, I used easy mode for research. I don't know how anybody's going to feel about that. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. As a matter of fact, let me know what you think about all of this. Are you pro or anti-easy mode, or do you care at all? Is this something that keeps you up at night? Are you worried that they're going to take away all your games with no easy modes and force all the developers to slavishly put one in? Are you more worried about not ever having an easy mode? Or are you just sane and you don't really care and you just want a good game? Or is it somewhere in between all of those? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to reading them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.